Sometimes life's journey can become so confusing that we don't know where to go, what to do, or who to turn to next. At such times, we may need a little guidance from a friend, a stranger, or maybe even from an angel on the Statehouse steps. It was Christmas Eve, but the sub-freezing temperatures, icy winds, and blowing snow were not adding to the Christmas spirit. They only added to the loneliness, anxiety, and depression that is often felt by those who live on the land. It had been a hard night at our little center on High Street. Midnight was fast approaching. The evening activities were concluded, and all our volunteers and staff were looking to go one place: home. Then almost suddenly, there they were. An old jalopy rumbled to a stop across High Street, and a young couple exited and started across the street, heading right for our door. They didn't even have on coats. What was that in their arms? A baby? Out in weather like this? The young couple with the baby out in the cold on Christmas Eve. I felt just a little like the storied innkeeper of Bethlehem when I opened the door to let them in. Their baby had been in Nationwide Children's Hospital for several weeks. They had been going back and forth between their home, an hour north of Columbus, and the hospital. The doctors came in at 8 o'clock on Christmas Eve and told them they were dismissing their baby to go home. I didn't know doctors worked Christmas Eve. The problem was that they weren't expecting to go home. They had planned to spend the night in the hospital. They didn't have money for a room or for food. They just didn't have any money. The heater in their car didn't work. The gas gauge was pushing empty. And they were stuck and didn't know what to do. Not really knowing why they were doing it, they drove from the hospital down to the Ohio State Capitol building. It was now 11 p.m. as they parked their car and began to walk around a completely empty Statehouse. As they came around the west side, there on the Statehouse steps stood a black man wearing a coat and a sweatshirt bearing our logo. He was sweeping the snow off the Statehouse steps. He stopped sweeping, leaned on his broom, and inquired of them as to how he might help them. They told him their predicament, adding that they didn't know why they were there at the Statehouse. And with a reassuring smile, he told them, "Go to 1203 North High Street. There are people who are waiting to serve you." Well, we quickly warmed them with blankets and hot cocoa. We outfitted them with coats and hoodies. We were out of gloves, so we fashioned stocking caps to serve as mittens. We loaded their car with groceries and Christmas presents galore. A stop at the all-night gas station across the street filled the tank on the old car. And we all reached in our pockets and gave them the money that we had. Before bidding them goodbye and Merry Christmas, we shared with them the good news that God wants to accept and embrace us right where we are, just as we are, that nothing we could ever do could earn His attention. He gives it to us freely if we will allow Him to embrace us. And just as importantly, He loves us far too much to leave us there. If we will allow God to lead us, He will take us places where we could never go alone. As we wished them well and sent them off with a hearty Merry Christmas, there was one thing we didn't tell them. We did not have anyone out on the streets working at the Statehouse that night. Besides, who would sweep the snow off the Statehouse steps at 11 o'clock on Christmas Eve? But because that young couple followed the gentle prompting in their heart, even though it made no sense, they were in the right place at the right time to receive divine guidance. Let me ask you, how's it going with your journey of life? Really well? Great. Maybe it's not going that well after all. Either way, could you use a little divine guidance? Just like the couple walking around the Statehouse late on Christmas Eve, God is wanting to embrace you right now, right where you are, just as you are. And He loves you far too much to leave you there. If you will follow His prompting in your heart, He will take you places you could never go alone. My name is Steve Campbell. Let's you and I talk about that. Let's visit about your personal journey of life. If you would, please email me at the address on your screen. I would love to hear about your journey, where you are, where you would like the journey of life to take you. Oh, by the way, if you're wondering what happened to that couple, they went on to partner with us by providing blankets and other needed goods for those who were lost and wandering around in the cold, not knowing what to do. God bless you. Let's talk soon.